There has never been a better time to be a true crime TV show or documentarian or news network. And why? Because there's more crime out there? No. Is it that there's more interesting crime out there on the street? Or more dramatic crime? Or maybe more important crimes that are being committed? Nope, nope, and nope. It's a golden age for my business for one simple and pretty obvious reason. Cameras. Not one of us, okay, maybe just a few of us, but really not one of us can take 2 steps outside of our homes anymore without being watched and recorded. Lots of us are watched and recorded inside our homes as well. And oftentimes we're actually the ones doing the watching and the recording. And most of us, we really just take it in stride, don't really think much about it. And when we do think about it at all, it's not the near constant watching that we find surprising. It's the fact that it just hasn't always been like this. Because if you are old enough to remember 9/11, you can remember when surveillance cameras were for banks and jewelry stores and casinos and prisons and really not a whole lot else. They certainly were not mounted on every other light pole and tucked into every second doorbell, all the way down your street and around the corner too. I want you to try something. It's like a little experiment for the holidays. The next time you watch a cop show from the 70s or the 80s, like Beretta or Kojak or like Rockford Files, by the way, great choices. Try this. Try to imagine how quickly they'd be able to solve the crimes on those shows if there were cameras everywhere and if everybody on the show had a smartphone. I love those shows like anybody else, but today, swear to God, those shows would be about 8 minutes long, tops. So cameras are reason numero uno why I love coming to work every day. And smartphones would be reason 1A. Because with smartphones, we can not only get video and pictures of other people doing things that nobody should do, we can and we do sometimes record video and pictures of ourselves doing things that nobody should do. Present company excluded, and I mean you in that too. But I am talking about the kids who filmed themselves ramming a retiree on a bicycle from behind. We know exactly what happened to Andy Probst on the morning of August 14th in Las Vegas, because the 2 teenage criminals who hit him in a stolen car, I might add, ending his life, recorded themselves while doing it and recorded themselves laughing about doing it. That is also the reason that they're both facing murder charges and many other charges too, in grown-up court, even though both of them are kids. One of them actually turned 18 after the killing. Even when a video doesn't solve a mystery or clinch the conviction all by itself, it certainly can do something else. It can explain the how and even the why of a tragedy, like the shooting of 2 13-year-olds by an 11-year-old at football practice. That 11-year-old got the loaded and unsecured gun from mom's car. He was arrested, he was charged, he was given like the old attempted second murder degree for an 11-year-old. Second-degree murder. What about the mom? Should she face charges too? It was her car, it was her unsecured gun, football practice. And then there's the Ohio teenager named Mackenzie Shrilla. She used a car to kill her boyfriend and another teenager. She just went ahead and drove it into a brick wall at 100 miles an hour. Almost certainly, she was unaware that the whole thing was being documented for her murder trial. And she was convicted of it, by the way, in case you're wondering. And even though the Vegas hit and run, which was actually part of a rampage with multiple victims, isn't going to face a jury for quite some time, it is hard to imagine any verdicts other than guilty across the board because it's on video. Now look, I have been wrong before, and we're not going to know until we know, but those Las Vegas suspects sure did go out of their way to make sure that any jury deliberations in the future are going to be awful damn quick. All right, let's start with this unbelievable moment we're in America with a crime in Vegas. And the reason that it's just sort of coming to the fore right now the killing happened over the summer, okay? So the actual accident itself, where Andreas Probst, 64 years old, where he was killed, that actually happened over the summer. And the police thought it was a hit and run. Why wouldn't they? He was out for a morning ride. And when his daughter got the alert that dad had fallen, maybe, and came out, and she and her mom discovered him, they thought it was a hit and run, because that sounds about right. Well, it was a hit and run, but it was something far more than that. And the only reason we know that now, God, I look at these pictures and I'm just sick to my stomach to think this is the man on the bicycle. Look at this family. Look at this joy, this happiness. Look at these kids and his wife. And, you know, he'd been 35 years in law enforcement. He was a police chief, for God's sake. Just wanted to go out for a 6 a.m. bike ride when a couple of effing thugs who stole a car, slammed into another car for fun, and then seconds later decided to take him out. You know it because they said it. They said it right before, they went right for him, and they laughed before, they laughed during, and they laughed right afterwards. So here's your big warning of the August 14th video that went on social media, right? Weeks later, it went on social media. That's how the police know that this wasn't just an accidental hit and run. This was an intentional murder. So there's your warning. I want you to see it because it's important you know exactly what these kids were laughing at. Take a look.
All right, go. Go. Let me move around. Stop talking. Stop. Ready? Yeah. Hit his ass.
Did you hear it? Hit his ass. That's what the passenger who's still on the loose, that's what he said to the driver, the 17-year-old driver who's now been arrested. Hit his ass. And then they laughed as that lovely, caring father and husband and law enforcement police chief, as he went flying over their car, smashing their window, falling in the road behind them. That's what they did. And then they took off saying, we got to get out of here. You think? You think you got to get out of there? Well, it turns out it's someone decided to airdrop that video in a high school, according to local reports in Vegas. And somebody was stupid enough to let that happen and stupid enough to get arrested at 17 years old, allegedly. We are waiting to find out if that's going to be an adult charge. I want to bring in Caitlin Becker, senior reporter for the Daily Mail. I can't even bring myself, Caitlin, to get through these details without seething, without throwing up in my mouth at this crime. And I know I'm not the only one. I know that there are so many Americans right now who are watching this who feel the same way, disgusted and wondering how the hell did we get to this point where a 17-year-old would do this?
Every time I see the video, I hope that I can handle it a little better. And I almost feel like every time I see it, it's a little bit worse because I know what to expect. And I can see just the reckless disregard for another human being as these two kids were, as you said, joyriding in an allegedly stolen car. And not only to do what they did, but you see how horrific it was. You see the man probably struggling for life in the background of that rear view mirror. And then they just drive off and only think about themselves when they say, we got to get out of there. As you said, yeah, you better get out of there because what you did was mow down an innocent person on the street and then to video it and allegedly airdrop it, to allegedly send it to another person, of course we're here. Of course we're at this point where at least we have one arrest under our belt, and we will likely get another one, because I think we're going to find out who that passenger in that orangey red balaclava is sooner than later.
They're asking. They want tips. They're asking for the public. Take a good look at that picture. I know it's hard, but kids talk, and that driver was 17. So it stands to reason that maybe the passenger that videotaped it and laughed all the way might be pretty young, too. This is what the Clark County DA, Steve Wolfson, said in a statement today, Caitlin. I am confident that justice will be served in this manner once the investigation is complete and the appropriate charges have been filed. Do we know where they are in making sure that that charge for the driver, the 17-year-old, is an adult charge and not a kiddie charge?
They're pushing it as quickly as possible, Ashleigh. I think you're exactly right when you say you're taking a look at your ticker to see if this is going to happen, maybe even in this broadcast. I think time is imperative because if people are noticing, you and I are not saying the name of the 17-year-old who was behind the wheel who was arrested, because we don't know it, because they haven't shared it, because it is a minor. However, once that person is charged as an adult, we're going to know the name. And the second we hear a name, I think it's going to be a lot easier for people in the community to put a name to the face in the passenger seat. So getting those charges upgraded, I think, will be really important to finding out the identity of the other person.
Keep your eyes on it. Caitlin, jump back on the air with us if that crosses, because, again, they're several hours behind. Caitlin Becker joining us, senior reporter for the Daily Mail. I want to bring in Mike King now, if I can. Retired homicide detective and investigator. He created the Profiling Evil podcast and YouTube channel. Also want to bring in Darby Fox. She's a child and adolescent family therapist. They both join me live. Mike, I'm going to begin with you. I know you're seasoned. I know you're hardened. I know you've seen it all. But this has to sort of be a new low.
Oh, it really hits you hard, doesn't it, Ashleigh? And I think of Chief Prope's family and the people that served under him, and what a horrible event. But, I think this is really an interesting kind of perfect storm of everything we've seen happen in the last couple of years with defund and de-escalate and all of the treat things a little kinder. We've kind of let things slide a little further. Police officers are afraid to act. And as a result, I believe, and this is a personal belief, but I believe we're seeing that systemically across the country, whether it's malls that are getting flash mobs going in and tearing the place apart, or predators walking down the streets of New York City and punching elderly women in the face. And now there is this lack of empathy, there's a lack of compassion, and there's a vitriol around doing this kind of predatory kind of action.
Darby, I opened this program saying, is this who we are? Is this what we've become? I mean, this is a teen driving and probably somebody in the passenger seat not too far off in age. I want to think it isn't, but just like Mike said, I'm seeing too much with our youth doing things that are so callous and so much in disregard of just humanity. This is your business. You deal with teenagers. Please get me off the ledge.
Unfortunately, I think we see a lot more of this kind of stuff, Ashleigh, because, as Mike was saying, there's a lot of things that have happened over the past, say, 4 years that have contributed. But what we've done as a society is really look for excuses as opposed to solutions and holding people accountable. And I think that if you look at this, it certainly is this notion of social media and posting pictures. I saw one clip that had, I don't know, maybe now it's got several more, but over 11,000 likes. Like, as you said, that makes you sick to your stomach. Who likes something like this? Who would click that? So I think it's really important that we realize there's a very strong disconnect between what people see on social media and how it interacts with them. And it enables us, when everything is external, it enables us to not be accountable, to not feel such great empathy or connection. And that is something that is very new. And then you have a teenager who is, prone for risk-taking behavior and gratification developmentally. And there's no previewing of what the consequences might be. It's how much fun could this be? How many likes would I get? There's no consideration.
Hey, Darby, do they have honor among thieves, these kids? Like, that's one of my only things that I'm hoping they didn't inherit from their, from the generation before them, the honor among thieves. Will that driver who's 17 get a squeeze play that will squeeze every single syllable of the passenger's name out? Because why protect that guy?
I hope it does. This is such an egregious example. Watching that video, anybody who looks at that, I don't know how you could not give up someone who's done that. I mean, it's one of the worst examples. We see them all the time, every day. But
Mike, take a look again at the video. We're not replaying the whole thing. I wanted people to see it so they could really feel the reason why I am this angry and why so many others are this angry. I think if you sanitize it, you may not really feel the full effect of what they're laughing at. But Mike, there's a lot of detail in this video. And as a homicide investigator, I'm hoping that you can tell me what I'm not seeing on my own in terms of tracking these kids in this stolen car.
I think the biggest thing that jumped out at me, Ashleigh, is number one, this was a stolen vehicle from everything I've been able to read. They were involved in multiple felonies before this, including multiple hit and run accidents. And I believe this car that they're passing right now,
it's playing.
They actually hit. Yeah. And
watch behind. You can see they run into the curb and they've run them off the road.
Exactly. And so you have this already established behavior that they're reckless, they're violent, and they're looking for something, and they're finding a lot of joy in it. And you know what? You can say, hey, it's kids and they got a little carried away. But you know what? When you start saying things like they said, that takes you beyond the level of, hey, a couple of kids that kind of got out of control and said, hey, let's bungee cord jump off of this building.
Yeah, it's too far.
So, Darby, a lot of times when I need you to tell me, look, up until recently, I have always understood why we charge, youth as youth. And there is this whole, I mean, you explain it, is it the prefrontal cortex that's not yet developed yet, and kids don't make the right decisions. I probably got it wrong, but the reason is that their brains haven't formed fully and they can't make those kinds of decisions. But I look at that and I feel I don't care. I need to be protected from that.
Yeah, I want to make a really clear distinction there, Ashleigh. The brain isn't fully developed, but because it's fast developing so they can be great adults and make all these amazing decisions. But every adolescent, especially by age 17, has the ability to know the difference between right and wrong. That's pretty basic. So the piece that pushes them towards risky behavior is a developmental piece saying, I'm looking for novelty-seeking things. I'm looking for the fun stuff, and I don't necessarily get the GABA that says stop and think about it as quickly as I should. It is not non-existent. This is so much further down the road. This is a psychopathic. This is a problem.
Is
this
it ever?
pathological.
And I want to be protected from that person. I don't care at this point what kind of development he's been through. I want to be protected from him, and I think everyone watching does. Darby Fox, Mike King, thank you both so much. Really appreciate this. Up next, he did what all 11-year-olds do when they're mad. He got even. Only this little boy had access to his mom's loaded weapon on the passenger seat of mom's car at Pee-wee football practice. Net result, multiple gunshots, 2 boys in the hospital, and an 11-year-old whose formative years now include being locked up in a cell for days on end. But is he really the person who should be locked up? We take you to Florida after the break, and the incredible video of the kiddie football practice that descended into bloody mayhem next. I just want your reaction to this. I mean, you're a defense attorney, so I always expect you to be, easygoing. But something tells me you're not going to be easygoing on a mom who had a loaded gun in a car, presumably that she brought her 11-year-old to football practice in, sitting right there, passenger seat, easily accessible.
Well, normally I probably wouldn't, but I don't know. I haven't, obviously we haven't heard from the mother. We don't know if the mother has been the victim of an assault before and that she was carrying it for her protection.
So what? No, Garagos, no, you can't say that. She had an 11-year-old kid, and there were all sorts of little kids around, so even her protection, is secondary to making sure little children get to live.
There is a world, Ashleigh, where mothers may have to protect not only themselves but their children, and sometimes that means being armed. I mean, that's an unfortunate world we live in. And I saw the police chief say that somehow this is maybe a symptom of the times. I can remember 25 years ago we had that exact same kind of issue or thinking in California. We passed back then 3 Prop 21s ago, where we were charging juveniles in adult court at age 14. And so this is a problem that we have generation after generation after generation. I respect the criminal justice system is designed for.
I respect what you say about a mom may have look, Dan Abrams just had a story about a mom who can't stop a freak from flying over her house in a Cessna and stalking her regardless of how much court action she's taken. However, I get it. There has to be a reasonable way to keep your children safe from what just happened. And I think, Matt, you might have something to say about perhaps wearing the gun on your person when there are 11-year-olds in the passenger seat and then accessible through that open passenger door.
Well, this is a huge problem. Obviously, if the facts pan out the way they appear, this really is on the mom. Having a firearm is one thing. You have to be responsible with it. As you've noted, there is Florida law that applies directly to this situation. You have to be responsible as a parent, and you can't have a child under the age of 16 to have access to your firearm. It's got to be locked at all times. Clearly, if you look at this video, this little boy gets in there, and he is 11, and I agree. This is a child.
You saw how fast he got it.
Well, and to any police officer or anybody that's been trained in firearms, that's what's called a hot weapon. Okay, there's no safety on that, apparently, or if there is, it's not engaged. That thing is ready to shoot. And Mark may be right. I haven't read anything. Could be she's got a stalker. Could be that she's got some really good reason to have that. She's still violating Florida law, and we haven't heard any of that. And if that's just a just-in-case weapon that an 11-year-old has access to, that woman is incredibly lucky that those 2 children, the other kids that got shot, survived this. Otherwise, she could be looking at a situation like the Crumbleys in Michigan, where their son went, Ethan Crumbley, shot 11 people. They've been charged with involuntary manslaughter, and they've been in custody for 2 years already. So another thing about that little boy, he was bound over in custody today. So because this woman...
What do you mean by that? He was bound over in custody?
So there was a detention hearing held in juvenile court that was actually aired, and the judge kept him in custody. So he didn't even get to go home.
He's sleeping in jail.
He's in jail, right?
As an 11-year-old, he has spent almost a week in jail.
Right. So you have two boys in the hospital. One was released almost immediately. One is still in there. He's in critical care based on what I read. This other little boy is in custody, and it all comes down to this woman and irresponsible firearm ownership.
So, Garagos, jump in here about, I was very frustrated by the actual charge. I mean, it just seems so small, Let me get it. It was in front of me a second ago. It frustrated me.
You're talking about the second-degree misdemeanor?
Yeah, second-degree misdemeanor. It was keeping an unlocked gun within reach of a child, but I was looking for reckless endangerment, endangering a child's life. And maybe those are to come, but no one has mentioned that. They've only mentioned this misdemeanor. And do you expect that that's all she will get, or do you expect that she will have to face additional serious and maybe felonious charges?
Well, Matt, I think, hit on something. The law is kind of peculiar in one sense. Sometimes you never really get consequences unless there's a death. And especially in situations like this where liability is not as clear-cut as you would either hope that it could be. So she's fortunate in a lot of ways. And I would reserve judgment until I understand more of what the facts are with her. I know it's easy to get on and do a prosecutorial, gang up on her.
It is easy. It is easy. I'm sorry. I'm a mom. It is really, really easy. And that's a registered gun. So let me be clear. She had a registered gun, but that is no way to hold a gun. I have 20 seconds left, Matt. I just wonder if because of this kind of thing we're seeing more and more of, are legislatures going to change the way the laws are written? Are they going to start saying, hey, this second-degree misdemeanor? No. we need something far more serious for parents.
Well, this is one. Let's see first if she's prosecuted. Let's see if she takes a hit for this, and then everybody will hopefully learn a lesson from it.
Well, again, there is likely a charge coming, but it seems like a misdemeanor. And for me, it doesn't feel like a misdemeanor. That's my question. Are we going to see legislatures getting way tougher on bad grown-ups?
Hopefully we have, look, there has to be a balance, especially with the Second Amendment. It's an incredibly complex issue. But hopefully this woman will be held responsible for this. I think it all boils down to her.
Well, I'm going to keep on the story. I thank you so much, both of you, Mark Garagos, Matt Murphy. Stay tuned and come back when we find out what she will be charged with. Appreciate it, guys. Coming up next, when you think of a car going 100 miles an hour and hitting a wall, these are not the words that you'd associate. Controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional. But that's what the judge said to a 19-year-old driver while sentencing her for killing 2 people. Oh, and there was another word the judge used, murder. You will see the unbelievable video after the break. And if you are like me, you're going to wonder why that driver was even alive to face a judge. There's a young Ohio girl who is really wishing she wasn't a murderer. 17 years old, she decides to step on it. That's Mackenzie Shirella getting her just reward for driving her car at 100 miles an hour into a wall and killing her boyfriend and his friend, and not herself. Although that was probably the plan, right? 100 miles an hour. Those are the 2 victims, Dominic Rousseau and Davian Flanagan. They were killed on the scene. She survived. But the judge in this case, as he was sentencing her, decided that she should get 2 life sentences for each of these victims, right? But said that they would run concurrently, meaning together, not one after the other, it's consecutive. But there will be a 15-year minimum before she can even have a peep in front of a parole board and ask for mercy. And that's not necessarily going to happen after killing 2 people like that with premeditation. With premeditation. I'll tell you why in a minute. First, I want you to see the accident itself. And just a warning, if you're squeamish, you're not going to see blood, you're not going to see gore, but you will see this car and you will hear the crash. Take a look. That is so unbelievable to me, that 100 mile an hour. I mean, anyway, look, the thing is, she said it was an accident, but the prosecutor showed evidence that, quote, the accelerator pedal was being pushed down at 100% capacity. She also scouted out the route a few days before the crash and was trying to get out of this toxic relationship, apparently, that she had. She sobbed through her apology today in sentencing, and she called Dominic Rousseau, her boyfriend, her soulmate, but she didn't show any remorse after the crash before she was arrested. Here is what happened instead. She had photos and videos that the prosecutors showed in court, her attending concerts and making videos with friends in Halloween corpse costumes and making TikToks like the one you're about to see. Take a look.
Baby, that's all we need. We can go to the bar, at the dog, smoke that good weed, and the marijuana.
Judge, can I just make one continuing?
Yeah, so all of this is after she's driven her car at 100 miles an hour into a wall and killed her boyfriend and his friend. She's having all sorts of Casey Anthony-like fun. It's, gross. She also was on the phone with a modeling agency from the hospital with her mom. Wow. The father of the boyfriend, believe it or not, said that she should not spend life in prison, which is mind-blowing to me. Gigi McKelvey, host of Pretty Lies and Alibis podcast, is live with me now. She's one of the smartest people in crime reporting and true crime podcasting that I know. Gigi, I'm so glad you're here. Can you help me kind of navigate through this father of the victim, of the boyfriend, saying she shouldn't spend life in prison? Because I look at all that and I think, yeah, she should.
Well, I tell you, to find forgiveness in your heart when your child was killed like that is just beyond something I think I could do, and it speaks volumes about his character. And maybe he just feels that adds to the tragedy of it, that this girl at 19 is not going to be free for at least 15 years and likely longer. She's going to be in probably for the rest of her life. So I thought that it was an amazing gesture that he is thinking about her and her well-being and saying that it would be tragic if she were to spend her life behind bars. But, I mean, you know, when you choose to do what she did, the punishment's not going to be easy.
You know, this is such a fascinating issue that 15 years to life. I'm still curious about 15 years because this was premeditated. They gave plenty of evidence to show this was planned. She scouted. She had hit the gas hard. This wasn't, oops, we're drunk and I didn't know. I mean, it's bad, but it's not the same as premeditation. I'm a little surprised that that's the guideline and that's what she's going to get. She'll get a crack at freedom in 15 years.
Yeah, and that kind of blew my mind, honestly. I mean, we're talking about 2 young lives that were taken. And not only that, but just a few weeks before, she had actually threatened to crash the car with him. And he was so scared that he called his mom to come pick him up. And then a friend who actually heard her threatened to crash the car with him in it. And, you know, for these TikTok videos is what blows my mind, in that she's sobbing in court saying he was her soulmate. But, man, you would think this was just a normal day and nothing odd had ever happened watching these TikTok videos. And you know, I think that just goes to that lack of remorse that clearly we've seen up until it became really serious with a trial in front of the judge and her sentencing, because you can't wiggle out of that. And, man, I mean, just 3 lives really gone.
Really? I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I heard about another video that we didn't show there, but she was in a wheelchair because she was injured from the accident at a concert. So she, you know, rolled the wheelchair to a concert, and that clearly played into the prosecutor's hands when they said, is this the vision of remorse, somebody who decides to go to this concert? There you go. There's right there at the concert. Anyway, I am a little curious. I don't know that there's a question here, Gigi. I just need to bounce this off you, that she survived. I think everybody else who's watching right now is like, you're burying the lead. She drove a car into a wall at 100 miles an hour, and she's standing there and sitting there, and she can speak and breathe and walk, and she has no maimed, you know, scar. Like, you would never know what happened, and I'm just kind of flabbergasted by it.
Yeah, and you know what's odd, Ashleigh, is we see this a lot in DUI accidents where they kill a family of 4 and the person driving the car comes away with maybe 1 scratch. I don't know what it is. Does she know what's coming and is able to brace her body better? I have no clue, but I mean, this could have went another way where we have 3 deaths and we're wondering what happened. But yeah, it is always bizarre when the people driving the car that have ill intentions or are drunk, you know, for that matter, end up unscathed when their passengers or other innocent people on the roads are the ones that have their lives taken. It seems to me like this was, you know, what's sad too, Ashleigh, is just we're seeing these toxic relationships so young these days. I mean, young teenagers that are in abusive relationships. And it seems like he had some video on his cell phone of her threatening him and throwing fits. So clearly, instead of walking away, unfortunately, she chose to take him out of this world and his innocent friend right along with him. And so I feel like it's a good sentence, because if she had have had another weapon, which in this case, the weapon was the car, if she had had a firearm, we wouldn't even be questioning whether or not this is a just sentence for a 19-year-old. We would say, of course, it is, send her away. So that's kind of my thoughts on it is that car was a weapon and she chose to use it that night and she used it and 2 people are gone.
And we've seen these possessive, abusive relationships before where it's if I can't have you, then nobody can, and off, you know, out you go. And murder-suicides, you're right, we cover these, and these kids are, you know, doing very adult things and then facing very adult consequences. Gigi McKelvey, you have got to come on this show more often because I adored your coverage in Northern Idaho, and you just have to be a regular guest.
I will do it.
I'm so glad to hear that, Gigi McKelvey. Anyone who has had little kids knows what it's like to child-proof a house. The little rubber covers over the sharp corners on every table, the gates across the staircases, those plastic plugs you put on the electrical outlets. And then, of course, you move all the loaded guns off the sofa. You know, the sofa that's right there at toddler height. I think you know where I'm going with this. After the break, the video that will make you clench your teeth in anger. a young man so careless with his loaded gun in a house full of kids that a baby in diapers toddles over and shoots himself in the hand. And the reaction after it happens is almost as maddening. Next.
To reach adulthood. That's why vaccines matter so much. For 40 years, Rotary and partners have delivered vaccines globally. Like here and even here, in your neighborhood and around the world, Rotary is ensuring children grow up safe from preventable diseases.
This summer, the Games will bring us together to celebrate our nation's athletes, their sacrifices, resilience, and unwavering passion. Because at the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, we believe athletes are defined by their journey, not the medals they win. And creating a safer stage for all levels of competition is our priority, from the practice fields in your town to the podium in Paris. Join the movement to end abuse at uscenterforsafesport.org.
When I grow up, I want to be a teacher.
Because when I'm a teacher, I can help kids to learn and chase their dreams.
PI, a defect of the immune system, affects millions of children. Early and accurate diagnosis and treatment give children like Sam a chance to achieve their dreams.
It takes a lot of caring teachers to make school fun. It took a lot of caring people to keep my dream alive. And now, because of them, I can be head of the class.
For more information, visit the Jeffrey Modell Foundation at info4pi.org.
Problems and abnormal movements. Report fevers, stiff muscles, or problems thinking, as these may be life-threatening. Sleepiness is the most common side effect.
Take control by asking your doctor about Ingrezza.
You know when you say stuff that's really hyperbolic, like, I could just kill him. I could have just killed him. You say those things all the time, right? But in this story, I'm just going to go there and say, I could have just killed this guy when I saw the video I'm about to show you. Because it's the kind of video that might have a very profound effect on how you feel about guns in the house. Last week, I showed you these home invaders who were kicking down the door of this poor guy in Washington State, and he just unleashed through the door with a gun, and they went scrambling. And we all felt pretty good about it. And that might have changed your mind on guns in the house, maybe not. But tonight, I'm going to do a 180 on you. Because there's this house in Florida where all these adults were milling about, and lots of kids too. And on that sofa was a loaded handgun just sitting there, and the safety wasn't on. With a toddler in diapers, some little guy who looked to be about 6 years old or so, and maybe someone who was 10 or 11. Little kids. And then a bunch of grown-ups walking all over the place. If you hear disdain in my voice, yeah, it's there. 3-year-old little girl in diapers walks over to that handgun, picks it up, and shoots her own hand. And the reason I tell you that is I'm going to show you the video, and I don't want you to think you're going to see blood and awful things. You won't see that, but you will see how this played out. And keep your eye on the guy who's supposed to be watching over her, who's looking at a laptop because there's a football game playing. Take a look.
Stop playing! Stop playing! Yes, sir! Yes, sir! What the happened? What the happened? What just happened, bro? What the happened? Yo, what the Yo, what happened? What you did to your hand? Is that your hand? Bro, get a belt! Get a belt! Give me some. Give me some. Belt. Good. Give me some, bro. I just told your ass. I just told you. Was that a... Oh, you know that bitch is drunk. It's not like... Well, how you... Oh. You said what? What happened? I don't know. What's this? Oh. I think that was me. Is she good?
Seriously, they're asking the little kid, what happened? That's the little kid who was holding his ears because it was so loud when the 3-year-old shot. There was a disabled woman on the couch. You're not wrong for wondering why that person on the couch never moved, never flinched, nothing. Disabled woman. She, this little 3-year-old with her tiny little hands, was in the care of her grandmother, apparently. And the guy who owned the gun was the one with the laptop watching the football game, 23-year-old Orlando Young. This is the other grandmother calling 911 because no one in the house called 911. Nobody called 911 with a child who shot her finger. No. The grandmother from afar had to call 911. And here's the call.
I don't know the address, sir. It's in the new homes right there off of Alapata, the project, the HUD homes right there, off of 220th. They just let me shoot herself in the hand. I just got the call. I'm going up 220th right now, heading there now. They're trying to take the baby to the hospital themselves. I need the rescue there. I need rescue and the fire and the police. Oh, Jesus. I'm trying to get there as fast as I can, officer, to get you the address. Because they want to go take her to the hospital themselves. No. I need fire rescue there. That's who I need there. I'm almost here. But I don't know why they did not. Well, took her to the hospital. Why y'all didn't call fire rescue?
Is the baby there, ma'am?
Where did she get shot? Where did she shoot herself? Dad, where did she shoot herself? Where did she shoot herself? All that.
Unbelievable. 23-year-old Orlando Young, arrested on charges of child neglect with great bodily harm, you think? Grandma, who you heard just there, so angry, as she should have been, released a statement about that little 3-year-old named Serenity, saying that they are waiting to see if her finger can be saved. More as we know it. No matter how you feel about gun control, you're going to have a strong opinion about the video that I'm about to show you. When 3 gun-toting thugs try to break down the door of a Seattle homeowner, the homeowner had a little surprise for them. Say hello to his little friend. The home invaders who went up against a good guy and lost. That's next. Deal about having guns in your home, and it is your Second Amendment choice. This next video is a must-see, and it already has some people changing their minds. A group of violent, armed home invaders wearing ski masks charging the front door of a home in Washington state and announcing that they are the Seattle police. Spoiler alert, they are not the Seattle police. No, they're not. And in retrospect, I am willing to bet that they wish they had picked another home. Take a look.
Seattle police!
The gunfire was coming from inside the house. Homeowner wasn't buying the Seattle police trick and wasn't going to wait for them to kick in the door either, and fired multiple gunshots at these armed intruders. You saw the shattering glass and certainly did send them running for their lives. This happened about 2 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, and tonight police are still trying to figure out who those men were. There's no word if any of them was actually hit by the homeowner's gunfire, but I think it's fair to say they quite literally dodged a bullet. Like it or hate it, guns and cameras are a huge part of our lives. So watch your step, because everybody else is. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Cuomo's next.
Happy Friday. Go Knicks. Chris Cuomo here. Sean P. Diddy Combs has trouble. It is not a he said, she said anymore. Why? Hotel surveillance video released by CNN appears to show, no, it doesn't appear to show, God, we are all the same in this business, always playing stupid safe. It shows. It shows what it shows, okay? Sean Diddy Combs beating up his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in 2016.